Yo, what up, you guys? It's Marcus Paper. How's it going? This is Tesla stock right over here. It looks like we might have seen a significant bottom in both Tesla and possibly in Palantir as well. We're going to get into all this now. But before we get into this video, if you get any value from this content, don't forget to put a smash down on the like button. It really helps this content. And if you haven't already, consider subscribing to this channel. I'd really appreciate it. And in addition, if you're into cryptocurrencies, definitely check out my BlockFi link in the description down below. I am now a partner with BlockFi. You can get up to 250 in Bitcoin as a bonus. I really like to take advantage of their APY of 8.6% with their stable coins. And if you want to take a look down here, this is their payout structure, depending on how much you deposit and what your BTC bonus would be. Well, and on this topic of BTC, before we get into Tesla and Palantir, we can see that BTC is breaking out to the upside right here. And we're just getting above 57, and that's been a minute since we got to 57. And what am I seeing here in the charts? Basically, we see this amplitude from this move right over here. I wouldn't be surprised if we break out to the upside this weekend, literally, going close to maybe a little bit under 60K. The areas of resistance that I'd be watching is right over here and right over here. This is maybe the more likely area where we're going to go to actually over this weekend. Now, the other thing to keep in mind though, if we actually do this, and this is all pure speculation, not financial advice, but if we actually end up going to this area, and this is kind of our target zone, I also think that we're going to break down to the downside and give it all back and go back to 57K. And when would we do that? That's after basically the weekend. We're talking about maybe Sunday evening. We're talking about Monday. That's when we're going to give it back. That's just, again, pure speculation, but we have this trend, generally speaking, of a run up over the weekend and then giving it back come Monday, come even Sunday evening. So be aware of that. Be aware of the potential upside, the potential downside. And without any further ado, let's get into Tesla stock over here. So a few things about Tesla stock. One thing, I think that I was drawing this line on the hourly chart. I wasn't drawing it. It should be looking at the lows of these three candles over here. So I'm going to move that because it looks like we've kind of broken out possibly. But in reality, we actually basically are getting right to this line. We closed right on it. So it's unclear whether we broke above it or just closed right on it. But the main point here is that if we're looking at this right here, what is going to happen on Monday and next week really is significant. We had a breakdown to the downside, but could this have been a false breakdown is the question. We did have a close right here. It is ambiguous whether we close above it or below it to me at the moment. So if we end up going above here, this could be a false breakdown with a violent recovery to the upside. And this would be the target if we go to the upside. If we have a confirmation and we find resistance yet again on this line here, and come Monday we hit this line and go lower, that would be definitely an indication that we actually broke down to the downside. So we want to make sure that this was in fact a breakdown and not a false breakdown with a wild ramp up to the upside. And keep in mind here, we had a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt happening along these lines here, and was been pushing price down to the downside, and a lot more also FUD even around earnings. Now, another thing that I mentioned on the Discord, and if you want to follow me on the Discord and interact with me there, and I'm also going to do some sessions there, maybe over the weekends at some point, we do sessions about covered calls, we'll do sessions about charting and other things like that. So if you're interested in that kind of stuff, definitely check me out in the free Discord in the description down below. But anyway, someone was asking me about an entry point for Tesla, and this was right after earnings. And I talked about, and this was on this day right here, I said, well, actually, there is a 3-day rule for basically earnings. And the 3-day rule is from this tweet over here by Gary Black. And basically this idea that it's oftentimes if you have decent earnings or good earnings and you have a sell-off anyway, basically it could be a sell-off for around 3 days. And this is just a rule of thumb. This is not, again, financial advice or anything like that, but that's exactly what we saw happen here. That would have been something great to take advantage of, this 3-day rule here, and bought on the 3-day for that ramp up that we saw today. So that is interesting. We'll see what happens in the week to come. Let's take a quick look at Palantir stock here. We could be seeing some similarities here. We can see this line in the sand that we drew right here. This was our line in the sand that we drew here. We talked about if we go below this, we would start to become more bearish. And this line was important. Today was the low of the day, came right on this line. So that was pretty interesting. So what do we see happening here next? Basically, we saw these two hits that we made back here. And we're thinking that this line was important. And then we hit this line yet again. I'm thinking that this could indicate a potential bottom and maybe we're going to recover. I talked about in the last update that I thought we're gonna, see this give back here and then kind of go to the upside next. So we didn't make lower lows than we made on Thursday. On Thursday, the low came at $22.81, and on Friday, the lows came at $22.84. So on the Discord, I also talked about the low of $22.86 being important, and I thought that might be where we ended up going. We ended up going 2 cents below $22.86 because we ended up going to $22.84. But where did I get that number and why did I think that could have been potentially important? Well, from over here, we have $22.86 as the close of the 22nd. And so this number here I thought could be important today. Again, we went 2 cents below that, but that's pretty interesting to get on a similar number as the actual low of the day. And then finally, over here we have the S&P 500. We do notably have somewhat of a bearish setup forming here. At the same time, we have to respect this trend, and this is still looking pretty bullish, so I will still remain bullish. There is no real reason for me to switch to becoming bearish until we break below this line right here. And this is not giving up too much. So for me, if we break below this line, I will become more bearish on the S&P 500. And this is not too far away. So there's no reason to just flip bearish at the moment when we are seeing price action. We're seeing positive price action. We're not breaking any trends that are happening at the moment here. These stocks I'm following and I'm doing technical analysis for Palantir stock, for Tesla stock. I'm not actively trading these, but I am actively trading calls on these stocks. I'm selling calls on Palantir. I'm selling calls on Tesla. And basically, I'm using technical analysis to help my sells and maybe repurchases of the calls, these covered calls that I'm selling. And the final stock that I'm looking at today, this is not a stock that I own, not a stock that I even really know about. This is simply a stock that on the comments of my last video, somebody asked, can you look at FUBO? So I am looking at FUBO today. And what am I seeing here today? Well, I'm seeing this downtrend, this lots of selling pressure. I would take the two tops over here, see where this takes us. And basically, this is getting us to a similar level over here that it's showing us that we're running into more resistance over here. So I would watch this line first of all. And then second thing that I would take a look at basically is if we look at this area over here where we're finding resistance, the line of resistance, I would say, is the low of this candle here. We're talking about $23.17. So first of all, there's two things that would make me become more technically bullish on this stock. Again, I don't really know anything about this stock, but I'm just talking about this stock. I would have to see a break of this trend line here and also a break of the low over here. Now, keep in mind that doesn't mean you should just flip to be bullish. We saw a false breakout right here intraday. So you want a confirmation of like a close or a full candle or a weekly close above these numbers too. There's no reason to necessarily jump into this stock at the moment. We're not seeing any strength at the moment, in my opinion here. So we, again, have to get above this. We have more resistance lines coming up above this too. This would be another key area right over here. So these are some things to be paying attention to. And I'm not bullish on this stock right here, but we'd have to at least break this trend here. And again, like I mentioned, get above this number here of $23.17. I hope you guys got some value from this content. If you haven't already, smash the like button, subscribe to this channel for more content like this, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. And keep in mind that none of this is financial advice. This is just some random guy on YouTube drawing some stick figure lines on a chart talking to you guys.